talking to you live on Facebook Live. Um, was it Instagram?
Yes.
Instagram, uh, YouTube, uh, Voodoo Tupu. Maybe we got that one anyway. How's everybody doing? Hope you're having a good day. Hope the week is going good for you. It's hump day. Just 2 more days in the work week. 2 more days. Well, actually, 3 more days before the SEC championship game. So let me start off and say roll tide. And I want to apologize to all the Auburn fans that I may have made mad with some of my comments. I do apologize. I love you, Auburn people. You know, you my people. And if you're an Auburn fan, I'm not mad about it. I just happen to be a Bama fan. But I did make some comments for some Auburn fans that after Alabama won a game, maybe it's the third or fourth game this year that we could have lost. There's no question about it. And let me say this: the other teams. So in football, there are two teams, and in the SEC, even if you have Alabama on your jersey and the other team has Auburn or Arkansas or Texas A&M or somebody else, those teams have good players. They have good football players. Those teams have good coaches. They have good football coaches. Those players and coaches are well paid. They have good facilities. They were recruited. They played in high school. They played pee wee ball. They know how to play ball. They are not anybody to just be taken lightly. And sometimes they can beat you. And quite oftentimes, as we've seen this year, they play you off their feet and off your feet. So anyway, I want to say that because, and I heard Nick Saban in his rant to the fans uh, make some comments that I'll say. I think some of the same things in perhaps a different way. As an Alabama fan, I'm happy when we win and when we beat a good team. And I realize that every week you don't play your best. And some weeks when you don't play your best and another team might outplay you and they may play their best and you still win the game, then there's something about that you got to be happy about. And so as an Alabama fan, I'm happy to win the game. Yes, there are things that I would have changed. There are things that I'm sure the coaches would change. There are things that the players would do differently. But at the end of the day, they won the game. They won every game this year except one, and it took a last second field goal to beat them at Texas A&M for that. And this Alabama's best team in the last decade? Probably not. But guess what? They're a game away from going to the college football playoffs and maybe 3 games away from winning it all again. So, you know, hats off to Bama. Auburn played a great game. No disrespect. But when you start throwing shade at the team that just beat you, I got to say something about that. So when you say, "Oh, Alabama's no good," and they just beat you, then I got to say something about that because I respect Auburn. I don't think that they're a terrible football team. Yeah, they had a fairly new quarterback. They've got a new coach. Um, this year they probably are not. Well, there's no probably in it. They're not as highly rated as Bama, but they're a good football team. They played a hell of a game, and they lost. They lost, and so hats off to them for playing a hell of a game. But when you lose, don't criticize the winner. And I think that's the point that I'm trying to make. It's been a great college football season, really competitive. Teams we hadn't been used to seeing. Oklahoma's gone, but Michigan is there. I've never been a Michigan fan until last Saturday when they were playing Ohio State. And I found myself pulling for Jim Harbaugh. First time I ever did that. I don't think I've ever pulled for a Jim Harbaugh Michigan team. I may have pulled because he had Kaepernick. I think, yeah, I'm pretty sure. Check me on that, some of you football fans, but he had Colin Kaepernick with the San Francisco Giants, and they played in a Super Bowl. So I'm sure I pulled for them then, but I hadn't pulled for them at Michigan. I was pulling for them against Ohio State, and they did a great job. So anyway, looking forward to the playoffs. So just a couple of serious things I want to talk about today, and these things are serious. There are too many guns, y'all. There are too many guns. On the heels of the Oxford, Michigan school shooting, 3 dead, 8 injured, 15-year-old gets a gun that his dad just bought and comes to school and he kills 3 people. Now, I think I heard on the news that in just this year, and we're not done with this year, there have been like 600 mass shootings. 600 mass shootings. Now, all of these shootings don't get the press and the publicity that this one got, or that, of course, Columbine got, or Aurora got, or Las Vegas got. Some of them are shootings that took place in Chicago, in the hood, as we call it, with gangbangers. But the point I want to make is that there are just too many guns. Just think about this: 600 mass shootings. That means shootings where multiple people have been killed and shot and injured. 600 of them. Suppose half the guns were off the streets. Suppose half the people that committed these mass shootings did not have access to a gun, to a pistol, to an assault rifle, to any kind of weapon. Suppose they didn't have it, then we could have easily anticipated that instead of 600, it might be 300. Now, 300 is way too many, but it's half of 600. I'm just saying, in a country that is supposedly as modern, sophisticated, educated, Christian, upright, honest, I better stop now before I start describing somewhere else. But in a place like we live, we should not have 600 mass shootings. And it saddens me to think about those families that have been affected. I'm sad, of course, for the families that lost children who just went to school. And I think about my grandkids, who go to school or will go to school, and your kids who go to school, or your grandkids who will go to school. That in schools in America, we got to think about somebody walking in with a weapon, and that something triggers them to just shoot. And we don't know what those triggers are. There's no way we can control the triggers. And since we can't control the triggers, we got to control the weapons. These are not weapons that are used for hunting. AR-15s aren't used for huntings. These long magazine handguns aren't used for hunting. They're used for apparently killing people. These are weapons of war, and as far as I could tell, there was no war in Oxford, Michigan, when 3 people got killed. So anyway, I'm sad about that. I really think we got to figure out what to do about guns. Hey, Rose. Hey, Levada. What's up, Cassie? How you doing? Cassie, UNCF, I got to talk about UNCF. A mind is a terrible thing to waste, but a wonderful thing to invest in. If you're looking for something to support UNCF. Go on the website. Give money. Give money. Every little bit helps, and there's a big time gala coming up. I should have the date, so Cassie, I won't say the date. I know it's in March, but come, man, it's a great event. You get a chance to really dress up and be around Birmingham's finest, and to have a great time for a great cause. So I just want to share that. So anyway, Cassie, I'm glad you're out there. So I do want to just pivot and talk about this insanity that we have going on in Washington, D.C. with Goldberg and Gosard and this Marjorie Taylor, whatever her crazy name is, and you can tell her I said it, and she can tweet about me. I don't really care. But it is really embarrassing that we have the kind of shenanigans going on with congressmen and women, folks who have been elected to pass laws and represent people in this country, acting a damn fool. A damn fool. Saying anything, playing to a set of people that are the same kind of folks that stormed the Capitol and wanted to kill Mike Pence and other congressmen. We have really got to arrest that. And I'm not saying arrested in a way that we take people and we put them in handcuffs and put them in jail, Steve Bannon and others. Maybe that'll happen. But arrested so that we stop it. So the best thing that I think that I want to do with this broadcast is not to just speak to and appeal to people that agree with me. But I want to reach across to some folks who might be Republican, conservative, whatever you want to label them as, but who understand that the things that Gosard and Boebert and Marjorie Taylor Greene are doing and saying, it's just dead wrong. Not only is it wrong, but it's dangerous. It's dangerous. We're a country that respects religious beliefs and differences. At least that's what I've been told. We're a country that where we may not agree with you philosophically, but we understand that at the end of the day, you're my brother, you're my sister, and we want what's best for our nation. But that's not what I'm seeing out of the folks in Congress. All of us as citizens need to be concerned about what is happening in America. Even though I would be first to say that the press clippings that America made for itself in the 18th and 19th and for the better part of the 20th century, you know how newspaper starts to get yellow and curl up at the ends. Well, our press clippings are doing just that. They're yellowing and curling up at the end. And unfortunately, a truth about America is really becoming apparent. But we can change that. You can change that. And what we need to do is we need to speak to people who may not agree with us on everything, but who ought to agree on honesty, decency, who ought to agree that elected officials should be held to a high standard, who ought to agree that if you depict an image of an elected official or anyone else being murdered, that that's wrong, and everybody should speak out against that. When you stand up and lie in front of a group of people about someone who happens to be a different religion and you use these jihad squad references, there's something wrong about that. We've got to stand up. Won't you join me, please, in standing up against the kind of hate speech, bigotry, and racism that's happening in the halls of the Congress of the United States? Let's do that, y'all. This is Bob Dickerson, Defend the Black.